third board in the series about the 5 Vayus. And as we go from one to the next, it really gets interesting to watch how each of the Vayus interact with each other and how they work together to create all the functions that we need within our body to sustain our life. Because that's what all of this comes back to. The 5 Vayus are the 5 divisions of Prana, and Prana is the life force that we need for our body to do everything that it needs to stay alive. All of the movement, all of the energy that we need just to carry out our daily functions, like having our heart beat, having our breath come in and out of the body. So we already talked about Prana Vayu, Apana Vayu, and now we're at Samana Vayu. So when we were talking about Prana Vayu, it was located in the area of the upper chest, like in the rib cage above the diaphragm around the heart. And then when we went to Prana Vayu, we were talking about the space in the pelvis and the lower part of the body, the lower part of the torso, which helps with grounding and your exhale. So Samana Vayu is located in the middle, in between those two spaces. And Samana Vayu is the Vayu of equalizing, regulating things. So if you think about that as being in between the inhale and the exhale, this is the Vayu that regulates how much we breathe in, how much we breathe out, keeping that equal so that everything is balanced, that we're not doing too much of one or the other. But really, the most important thing that Samana Vayu does is it helps with our digestion. You'll notice that the physical space where Samana Vayu is found, right below the diaphragm, above the pelvis, these are the major organs of digestion of our food and our water, the stomach, the liver, the small and large intestines, but also the process of digesting emotions, experiences. This is the part that I love about Samana Vayu, because so much of the time in the culture that we live in, because things are so fast-paced and we're constantly going from one activity to the next without really having much of a transition or a downtime in between. A lot of times, even if something really significant happens in our life, we don't get time afterwards to process it, to work through it and really absorb what that experience was, how it's changed us, how our life is different now after we had that experience. It's moving so quickly from one thing to the next that we don't get that processing period. And in that, we can reach a state of feeling overwhelmed and feeling scattered really, really easily. So when Samana Vayu is strong and we give ourselves the time to process, think like if you just ate a really gigantic meal, it's like after Thanksgiving dinner, would you then go out and run a marathon? No, probably not, because you have all of that food sitting there undigested yet. If you gave yourself time to process through that food and turn it into fuel, and then maybe the next day you want to do something active because now you have taken that, broken it down, sent it to the places in the body where it's needed, and then you can actually use it. But you have to go through that period of time where you're processing through what you took in. And we know if we look back to prana, prana is what we take in. Food, water, oxygen, we take it in. But once it's taken in, Samana Vayu is what processes through it, what distributes it to the rest of the body where it needs to go, or processes through the emotions of an event that happened. You might notice this after holidays. Using the example of Thanksgiving, when you get all of your family members together into one space, a lot of different things can happen. A lot of old emotions and experiences can come up. It happens for everybody. But giving yourself a little bit of time afterwards to decompress and to process through that, which is really helpful after a lot of different social situations. That's a situation where a lot of different things can come up. You might have conversations with people that you feel like you need to process through. So giving yourself that space to really digest what's happened, will help you to get more out of that experience. So then we come back to Apana Vayu. You've eaten that big meal. We drew in the physical substance that we need to sustain our body. We took that food in through Prana. And then Samana Vayu has digested it and taken out everything that we need. And then Apana Vayu does its job of eliminating. So the lower part of the digestive tract, where we've taken everything out that we need, and then we let go of our waste through solid or liquid waste, or we let go of emotions or thoughts or things that were internally have been digested, and we've learned from that experience what we needed to learn, and then we're ready to let it go and move forward with what's happening at that moment. One of the things that I find really, really helpful with giving yourself this space of digestion internally is journaling. After something happens, just putting pen to paper and seeing whatever comes out. It's nice because nobody's going to judge what you're saying. It's only you looking at that. You can destroy it when you're done if you want to. But it gives you a space to process through and organize your thoughts, and then try to find a take-home message of what can I learn from this? What can I do differently next time? That's the digesting of it all. And then you have another way to keep track of your experiences and things that you have learned from. The other thing that's really helpful with Samana Vayu is to give yourself space or quiet time to digest, so that you're not piling experiences on top of experiences on top of experiences. Think about the holidays. I keep coming back to that with this discussion because we've just gotten through the holiday season, and you tend to get to that space of overwhelm when you've gotten through that whole season of winter holidays. You've probably taken in a lot of food. You've had a lot of different social interactions. A lot of emotions have come up. There's all sorts of stuff that has happened. And you need a little bit of a decompression period after that, where maybe you're not doing as much, or maybe you're not taking in as much food. You're giving yourself space to process. But within that space of processing, doing meditation can be very helpful because it gives you that clear space. And if there's things that come up, you can kind of address them as they come up and process through them as needed. So we've talked about how Prana, Apana, and Samana all kind of work together in this central area, Prana, Samana, Apana. And I love to pull in different aspects of science to back up what's going on. So from an energetic perspective, Samana Vayu is connected with the solar plexus, with the area that we know to help with our personal power, our self-esteem, our motivation. It's what gives us the energy. Think like when you break down your food and you turn that into energy. So that energy is then what we use to achieve our goals and to do things during our day, to take care of ourselves, to take care of our loved ones. We need to take in that energy and then be able to use it to process it. So that comes from the solar plexus and metabolism and the Agni, the internal fire that is needed to process through things. When the Agni is weak, we have a lot more difficulty digesting our food. You have a lot more difficulty digesting emotional experiences, life experiences. You can get to that place of feeling overwhelmed because things are just stacking on top of each other instead of being processed and then let go. So the aspect where we pull in kind of more the scientific end of things besides energy and Vayus is when we talk about the gut as being our second brain. And there's this whole other term now called the enteric nervous system. And this is the abdominal area. It's the experience of when you know something is wrong, or you have a very strong gut feeling about something and you don't know exactly why you're getting that information. You can't pick out something in the environment and say that or that is making me have this feeling. It's just an overall experience that comes from the nerves in our stomach, and they're very sensitive. So we talk a lot about the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system in anatomy and what those things control, the second brain, this enteric nervous system, is really something that's a little bit newer in science and in research. But I always love when there's things in yoga that back when they created this system, we didn't have the science to say, look, this is what is causing this experience. But now we can look back and say the solar plexus and the area of the abdominal organs was so important in yogic philosophy, because now we can go back and look and say, look at this huge collection of nerves and information and how closely connected it is to our emotional experience, or giving a physical space to our intuition, that if we know that something isn't quite right, where that information is coming from, you're getting that gut feeling from those nerves around your digestive tract. So just an interesting thing to think about in terms of the scientific connection of Samana Vayu. When we go into our practice, we're going to be doing obviously a lot of things that are located around the center of the body, keeping that strong. Again, from an anatomical perspective, from a scientific perspective, this area of muscles is so important, because when you look at the skeleton of the body, there's the upper body, the arms, the rib cage, and then you look at the lower body and you have the pelvis, the legs, the feet. And then in between the upper and the lower body, there are just these lumbar vertebrae. And that's the only bony connection in your skeleton of your upper and your lower body. So this is one of the reasons why the lumbar spine is so vulnerable to injury. And we know so many people who have lower back pain, which now there is a lot of emerging research coming out in the therapy world saying that lower back pain is very strongly related to fear and emotions and depression. So this is a huge deal. I mean, having people treated for lower back pain was always, you have to do this exercise, you have to strengthen your core, which a lot of times is a part of it. But to say that there is an emotional component to that experience of lower back pain, I am so happy that the therapy world, the scientific world, is starting to understand that emotions play a big role in your physical experience in your body. So if you want, look up some of those articles. It's great to see this connection between some ancient wisdom that we know that the emotions have an impact, especially on this area of the body, of your digestion, of your lower back, of your abdominal area. So important, that connection. So for the practice, we will do some twisting and some core work. And by core work, I mean front, sides, and lower back. It's the whole area, the tube that connects your rib cage and your pelvis, your upper body and your lower body, to make sure that all aspects of that connection are strong, not just the front. Then doing some balance work, because being balanced is strongly connected to how well we can associate our upper body and our lower body. We have to equalize the forces of lifting and grounding. The prana and the apana have to be equalized for us to find our balance in that tree pose, or holding your big toe and raising your leg up, something like that. All of that comes back to being able to hold and stabilize and equalize through the center. Otherwise we fall over. So keeping yourself centered, keeping yourself oriented toward balance, no matter how much you wobble or how challenging you feel like that pose is. Okay, that will wrap up our third yoga board for Samana Vayu. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you will come back for the last two in the series. Namaste.